Folks, we want to welcome to the SHN Sports Georgetown Eagles pregame show. Coach Chuck Griffin, head coach of the Georgetown Eagles. Coach, thanks for taking the time for the interview again.
Thanks, Kelly. Glad to be here.
So, wow, what a game last week! Just a crazy high school football game. What are your overall thoughts on it?
Man, I'm proud of our guys for pulling out a win. I mean, they could have just laid down. You know, I don't know that I've ever had such a disastrous start to a football game before. Just turning the ball over 3 times in the first half inside the 20-yard line. I mean, you don't win doing that. But we really did feel like all night long that we were, other than those few mistakes, like we were on pace to be really good. And so the deal at halftime was just, hey, let's just do our job. Quit pressing, trying to be perfect, trying to do things, that you're not ready to do. Just go out there and play and do what you've been coached to do and do what you've been practicing all these months. And, it turned out fine. They went out there and they did those things, and we quit making so many mistakes, and then the second half turned out much different.
Belton came out swinging literally from the opening kickoff, the turnover on the opening kickoff, and they've got some talent. We talked about it in the interview last week, but that was a talented football team, and those boys came out swinging.
They did. They came out ready to go. And, anytime, I mean, 6A football, and they're big and fast. We kept mentioning how much we've practiced, and we have practiced, but there's something different about playing live football, and then the speed kind of got us a little bit early, and we had jitters a little bit, I think, and probably pressing a little bit too hard to be too perfect. And we just made too many mistakes early on. But like I said, man, our guys, they were resilient, and they came out. I think that's going to pay dividends for us later in the season.
I thought about that after the game. That's the kind of game that you can hang your hat on to build in the future. There's a lot to fix, naturally, especially that first half with the mistakes that you have there. But you've got a veteran football team. You didn't get the preseason stuff that you wanted, no spring football. So you go into the half at 27-7, and those kids could have hung their heads, but they didn't.
Yep. That goes to show the character of our football team, and that they are tough. They're a mentally tough group, and that's part of being senior heavy and senior laden. And they did a great job in the second half.
Yeah, in that second half, it seemed like a tale of 2 different halves, because your defense especially came out swinging in that third quarter and held Temple out of the end zone and off the board for the entire second half. They were really flying to the football.
Yeah, they really were. And to be honest, they did that a good portion of the first half. They just got the ball 3 times. I mean, the opening kickoff, they've got the ball on the plus 12. So that's hard to play defense in that area. So they were really doing that a good bit in the first half. It's just we kind of put ourselves in a bind there and put the defense in a bind. We cleaned up a little bit on special teams and offense, and defense was able to just kind of put a little more pressure on the quarterback and get some things accomplished.
So talking about the defense, you can't really talk about the performance on Friday night without bringing up Dre Langhorne. I think he had 12, 13 tackles.
He had 9 tackles. He had 2 sacks, 2 pressures, and a fumble recovery. Yeah, he was all over the place. And a couple of those were touchdown-saving tackles. One on kickoff return especially was touchdown-saving tackle. They popped a counter away from him one time, and he was able to go and make a play, which probably would have resulted in a touchdown had he not made that tackle.
Dre's got a nose for the football.
He does. He's a good football player.
And on offense, Ryan Eady ran the ball like crazy. And we're going to have to apologize for Ryan. He had a number change that you were telling us about, and there was a lot of assumptions made. But that was Ryan Eady running the football. He was an effective runner last year, but he just seemed like he was running the ball different.
He did a great job of finding the seams, being really patient, and being able to make things happen. He had 22 carries for 139 yards. He had the reason he was wearing a different jersey, we had a little jersey snafu. It turned out he had a big hole in the back of his jersey, and we didn't want to ruin it, but not be able to get him one for the rest of the season. We'll get that repaired this week. But I just took we had a JV kid dressed out that had played the night before that was just on the sideline, and we just switched jerseys out real quick. So he became Bryson Hanks for the rest of the game, one of our JV linebackers.
Wasn't there stadium guy calling him Bryson Hanks all night?
Bryson Hanks, and I think he got called Nate Denny. I think he got called all kind of stuff, all night.
Everything but Ryan Eady.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make that up to him. We're going to have an interview with Ryan later in the pregame show, and we'll make that up to him. But that was a great performance by Ryan. And then your junior quarterback, Darson Herman, boy, he hung in there and really started making some plays.
He did. And Darson really did. He went in there and, threw for almost 200 yards and threw for 3 touchdowns. And he had one really big mistake, but, that's kind of expected a little bit in the first game and being a junior. But he played well, and kind of was just resilient, ran the football well, had, I think, almost 60 yards rushing on the night, and did a great job.
So for folks who are watching and maybe have never been in that locker room at halftime when you go down by 20 points and really a physical belting team in that first half especially, how do you keep those kids from ducking their head and overreacting to a lead like that?
I think I don't know. About half the time, coaches, we're about part psychologists. That's just part of our role,
right?
I really spent the last couple of minutes trying to figure out what am I going to tell them at halftime, because it was pretty dreary, coming out of that first half. But when you step back from it and you watch what our defense was doing, our defense was doing a good job. We just put them in a bind by making some mistakes. Offensively, at times, we were moving the football really fast and moving it right down the field. And we were having a couple of mistakes here and there that were killing drives or they were turning the ball over. And we knew if we could take care of those things, then we had a great shot. And I just went and told them, man, if you'll do what you're coached to do, if you'll do what you've worked on and what you've been striving for, and just be patient. We're not going to score 28 points in the first 4 drives. Like, it's going to take some time. And we just got to go out there and play better football. You have all these temptations to write the score on the board and all these kind of things. And, I had somebody interview me on Saturday morning. They said my coach used to throw trash cans around the room. And, that just doesn't do any good. I wanted them to make sure that their coaches were behind them. We believed in them. They did have the talent and the ability to get out there and win this game. It was just a matter of them fixing a few things to get that taken care of.
Doesn't seem like the throwing garbage cans is really the Coach Chuck Griffin modus operandi.
No, it's not. It's I've probably been known to do that a time or two, but not very often.
So, not only are you down 27-7 at the half, but you're down 27-14 going into the fourth quarter. But those kids, you could tell it was a different mindset, and you see a determination going into that fourth quarter, having cut that lead a little bit, maybe not as much as you'd like to have, but talk about the start of that fourth quarter and what you're seeing from the kids on the sidelines. And
I thought there was 2 big game changers for us, one offensively, one defensively. On the drive we scored to go up to make it 14, we completed a 4th and 12, and we had defended them and stopped them a couple of times, and we just could not finish, and we had to punt. And we had a 4th down conversion earlier in that drive, and then we get up and we got a 4th and 12, and there was a temptation there to punt it and try to pin them because our defense is playing good. But I really felt like it's getting close to the end of the third quarter. We've got to make something happen here to have a chance to do it. And completing that 4th and 12 and then going down and score, and we just kind of took off from there. Offensively and defensively just can continue to hold their own and provide pressure on the quarterback and make some plays. So that was just kind of the launching point. And then they faked a punt at that time on their next drive, and we're able to sniff that out and stop them. And I think those 2 things just kind of changed the game and our momentum.
From a fan standpoint, when you've got a coach going for it on 4th and 12, I think Belton had 4th and 13 when they went for it. That's the kind of decision where the coaches in the stands are going, "What are you doing?" But when it works out, it seems brilliant.
Well, yeah, that's right. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, you're the GOAT. But it worked out for us. Just we trusted our kids, and we were in a situation where we felt like we we needed to make something positive happen and complete a drive and finish with some points, or else it was not going to get any better. You know, it was kind of the decision that was made.
So who were your players of the game?
You know, our players of the game, offensively, our offensive lineman of the game was Josh Palmer, a senior right tackle. Had 3 pancakes on the night and really had probably the toughest job of the night and did really well. Wide receivers, Brandon Bradford, he had 6 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. Just a steady playmaker for us all year last year, start off again this year. Our running back was Devin Ross, who had 3 carries for 28 yards and a touchdown. And then our code blue, our offensive player of the game, was Ryan Eady with 22 carries, 139 yards. Defensive line was Hans Cook. He had 3 solo tackles. He had assisted tackle and graded out just over 75%. Had a linebacker, Emmanuel Obina, was our linebacker of the game, had 8 tackles and 2 pressures and 1 really big hit on a screen. Our defensive back was Aaron Bazell, played really solid all night, had 5 tackles, 1 pass breakup and a fumble recovery and and 1 touchdown saving tackle. And then our House of Pain, our defensive player of the game was Dre with 9 tackles, 2 pressures, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery.
Well, I know we had talked before about your biggest concern going into the season. It was the lack of experience really on that defensive line. But after they shook off some of the jitters, they really did well. Yeah,
they did. We still got to continue to get better there. We're not big there. You know, that's not a really big spot for us. The strength of our defense probably is our linebackers. You know, so we're gonna do a few things, try to get a few more of those guys on the field and continue to get better defensively.
So you got another District 12 6A opponent coming in Copperas Cove this week, the Bulldogs. What are you looking for out of the Bulldogs?
You know what? One thing you know about Copperas Cove, man, they're always very athletic. They're always going to have some really big linemen. I've played them, gosh, for probably 15 years now, off and on, here and there. And, you know, they do a really good job running the football. They're a run-heavy football team. They got to play a couple of quarterbacks, kind of quarterback by committee, kind of running back by committee. So it looks like they've got a good bit of depth. Got a really good offensive lineman up front. Overall, they're pretty good up front. Got 1 really good skill kid out on the perimeter, wide receiver, Quajon Donnell. He does a good job for him, stretching the field a little bit. You know, defensively, they're similar to Belton, a little more aggressive, probably play a little more man coverage, trying to keep 7 in the box. So, you know, you got to create some gaps and figure out how to run the football into that because they're gonna put 7 in the box. You know, they got an inside linebacker, Kendall Parker, who's really good. You know, probably their best player on defense, excuse me, is a safety, Jalen Jones, and he's probably their best player defensively. And just, man, they like to get him down and get him involved from the safety position into making tackles. So, you know, we're going to have our work cut out for us this week. Again, it's a 6A program. You know, they're going to have a lot of depth, a lot of athleticism. And so we just got to go out and play our game and kind of do what we did in that second half, keep building on that and play our game and do what we're coached to do.
Well, and even though they had the Dogs had a 34-7 loss to Waxahachie last week, you got some film on them. So I guess there's a little more comfort in being able to see what they're going to do in the game.
There's a little bit. You know, we know what they're going to do special teams wise, which was totally – we had no idea, you know, going into the Belton game. So we know a little bit special teams wise what they're going to do. Got a little bit more film on them this week, you know, so that's good too. So we feel good about our game plan and had a practice this morning and it's probably a little bit sloppy this morning compared to what we want it to be, but we're going to keep getting out there and keep getting better this week.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. I know it's probably Saturday morning. Y'all got done celebrating that victory and started getting ready for Copperas Cove. So best of luck this week. Everybody healthy?
You know, we had the last about 3 minutes of that Belton game were pretty rough on us. We've got a couple of guys we're going to have to hold out this week just with some injuries. So we're going to be missing an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and a safety this week just with some injuries. But we'll get those guys back, keep getting those guys well, and keep working at it.
Nothing major then?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, Coach. Well, I appreciate your time, Coach. Folks, it's head coach Chuck Griffin of your Georgetown Eagles. And, Coach, good luck this week against the Copperas Cove Bulldogs.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Coach.
All
Folks,
right.
stay with us. It's almost kickoff time.